welcome back to my channel. As you can see, today we are doing a bookish Q&A. I have gained a lot of new besties here on YouTube, so I thought why not sit down, answer some questions that my Instagram followers asked me, and you guys can get to know me a little bit more, because I feel like it's really important for if you're watching someone's content, like you know them, you know what they like, you know what they're about. I just think it's really nice, and I haven't done one of these yet on my channel, so I'm excited. So let's, without further ado, get into the questions that I was asked on my Instagram. I will put my Bookstagram and my book talk here as well if you want to go and follow those channels. So the first question I was asked was, what got you into reading? And I don't specifically know. I feel like I have always been a reader ever since I was little. I feel like I've always loved like academics and reading, and I remember being in primary school and we had like a library and all the books are different ages for like different colours, and I think I had got completed all the levels like before anyone else. I loved it, but I definitely think growing up I was obsessed with those fairy books. What are they called? Rainbow Magic, that is it. I was obsessed with them. I think I had like hundreds, and they were so good, and I feel like that maybe was a stepping stone to all of the fantasy books that I like now, because I'm still obsessed with fairies, dragons, anything that kind of isn't in this world. And yeah, I feel like that definitely set me up for it. But in my teens, I was a huge Divergent fan. Obviously Twilight, I was such a big fan of that. And I also grew up reading like fan fictions of One Direction online. Like all of the after books by Anna Todd, I think she's called. I had read them all when I was like 14, and now they're like fully published. It's a big 360, and yeah, I feel like I've definitely grown as a reader, but I have enjoyed my journey very, very much. And I will say, when I first went to university to do my undergrad, I did lose out of touch with reading. I didn't read a book for years, and then once I finished that, I got back into it, and I told myself I will prioritise this forever now, because I know how important it is to me and my mental health as well. So on to our next question. Someone asked, what is your all-time favourite series? And there's only one. I can't believe that this actually stands out, and it's romance as well. And I feel like if you know me, you know what I'm going to say. So I'm going to give you 3 seconds to comment which romance series I'm about to talk about. I've just taken them off my shelf. So if they fall, I'm very sorry, but obviously my favourite series of all time is the Windy City series by Liz Tom Ford. This is a four book series at the minute. However, we do have a new book coming very soon, and also Liz Tom Ford has just announced that she is writing a new book coming out in 2026, which is a spin-off of these characters, and it's actually one of the characters from Caught Up and one of the characters from Play Along. It's Monty. He is the dad of our female main character in Caught Up, and I have loved him and I need his book, and I'm so excited that Liz Tom Ford is writing it. I feel like she has the same brain as us fans. She wants to give us what we want and what we need, and that is a Monty book. But we have Rio's story coming up very soon. If you didn't know, I mean, I'm sure you have if you have watched any of my content, is that the Windy City series is a almost like standalone but interconnected sports romance series. We are mainly based in Chicago, and we follow ice hockey players, baseball and basketball, and in each book there is a different predicament, because obviously they are all very high level athletes. They deal with fame, people kind of using them, and each book just, I feel like the found family grows throughout. You feel like you are within the friendship group, and when I read these books, it was like reading about my own friends and my own family. I care about them so much, even though they are not real and extremely fictional. But yes, I could bang on about this series for a very, very long time, and I won't go into each book, but just know that you are in for a ride. I always tell people, if you don't like Mile High, just stick with it, because I still enjoyed Mile High, but these were just top-notch gravy. So I will always recommend this series, and I think it'll really be hard to top as my favourite of all time. Our third question for this Q&A, I have got, if you could join a book universe, what would it be and why? Now this is hard because it's definitely gonna be a fantasy book of some sort, but like, do I enter Fourth Wing and go to Bagsiaf? Do I enter Caraval and join the mystical games? I just don't know. That is a hard one, and you guys, you've tricked me that. You've set me up for failure. I really don't know. There is one that I want to pick, but I'd probably die in it, if that makes sense. I'm going with the Hunger Games. Even though I will be the first tribute dead, I personally want to go to this universe to steal Peter from Katniss Everdeen, because sometimes I feel like she's not very deserving of him and she's just like so cold, and he's such a warm, bubbly golden retriever. I'm going to go and take him off her. That's all I'm going to say on the matter. But these books, it is like dystopian vibes. If you don't know about the Hunger Games, I'm not sure what you have been doing. Like, do you live under a rock? But it follows something called the Hunger Games, and we are following our main character Katniss as she enters these games where people fight to the death. And you're probably thinking, Sophie, why would you want to go into that book world? Are you crazy? But I want to go to Pan Am. I feel like I would be like a capital district kind of person. I'd be like Effie Trinket and live my best life watching these people kill themselves, and then I would have like a dramatic love story with someone from District 12. But yeah, that's just getting into my hopes and dreams right now. But yeah, I'm gonna choose Hunger Games because I think the world is so creative, and Suzanne Collins just really captivated me with each book. And if you haven't read the most recent one, oh my word, The Sunrise on the Reaping broke my heart. I cannot wait for that movie version of that book. Like, please go pick it up if you're putting it off. It was so good, and I think it might be my favourite of the series because I love Haymitch so much. I wonder who's going to play him in the movies. I'm intrigued. So someone has also asked, what book do you want to read next? So I am currently reading Jane Eyre by Charlotte Bronte, and I am doing a reading vlog for it, but it's taking me so long to get through. I don't know if like all classics are like this or if it's just these versions, but can we talk about how small that writing is? So I did have to download it onto my Kindle just so I could read a little bit faster, because I was like, and this is my first ever time reading a classic. Obviously I read like Of Mice and Men and stuff in school, but this is my first time by choice, and I feel like it's a lot to take in. But I will say, like a little sneak peek, my heart is growing for it. I feel like once you get into it, and don't overthink kind of the language that you don't understand, like think more on the stuff that you do, because otherwise it's like really overwhelming. But what I want to read next, I don't know, I feel like the weather is really warming up here in the UK, so I feel like, am I leaving my kind of fantasy vibe and am I leaning towards more kind of romance feels? And I've actually got two books by Elizabeth O'Rourke, and I feel like this comes in a set of three, but I only have two. So I've got This Summer I Saved You and This Summer You Found Me. I just feel like these covers are giving the vibes that I really want, and I'm not afraid to admit that. And I just think it's going to be really fun. I want to read some romances so I can recommend you guys some kind of to read this summer, and this is definitely on my spring TBR because they are really short as well. They're like 300 pages, and I feel like they're going to be like binge worthy, and I hope they're good because they look so nice next to each other as well. On to our fifth question. Someone has asked me, have you read the Caraval series, and if so, what did you think? Honey, do you even know me? Caraval is just up here, and it is one of my favourite series of all time. I will say it's probably in my top 3 fantasy series. I absolutely loved that story. It completely took me out of my own world and took me to that land of Caraval. I do see a lot of mixed reviews about this series though, so I feel like maybe it is like mustard, like you either love it or you hate it. But I was one of the people that absolutely loved it, and it makes me even more excited because I have Once Upon a Broken Heart trilogy, on my TBR, and I can't wait to get to that one as well. If you didn't know, Caraval is obviously a fantasy series. We're following two sisters, Scarlett and Donatella, and they have been obsessed with this thing called Caraval for their whole lives. It's almost like this circus where you're not sure what's real, what's magic. I feel like a lot of it is rumour based, so they have just heard about this growing up. Their grandma used to always talk about it. And our story kind of starts with these sisters finally getting an invite to the games, but what they don't know is they have a heavy role within it. So once they get there, a lot of things happen and they need to do a lot of things in order to try and win the games and potentially even save their lives. So it's very almost dark. It's got a dark underlying story, but the romance within it, I'd highly recommend. And yes, I have read it, if you cannot tell. So next up, which book character do you feel you relate to most and why? Now this is a hard one. I was kind of thinking on it when I was going through these questions and kind of picking out the ones that I liked. I don't really relate to these girls in like the fantasy books that are really strong, and I feel like I have one book which really works for me. Yeah. And this is Carrie Soto is Back by Taylor Jenkins Reid. This is also the author that wrote The Seven Husbands of Evelyn Hugo, so if you like that book, you'll definitely like this one. And I've chosen this one because Carrie is actually this ex-professional tennis player who tries to come back and kind of remake her career and make sure she's still top of the game. And I've chosen this one because I've played tennis my whole life. That is simply the reason, and I feel like when I read this I could really relate to Carrie because I have been in those tough kind of nerve-wracking moments within the sport, and I just knew how she felt. And I've never read a book about tennis before and it was so enjoyable. Taylor Jenkins Reid is definitely an author that I need to read more of her books because I have loved Seven Husbands of Evelyn Hugo and this one as well. But yeah, the cover is so stunning as well. It doesn't really give much away as to what it's about, to be honest. So I'll just read the synopsis to you guys quick because I feel like no one really talks about this one. So it says, Carrie Soto is the greatest player the world has ever seen. But 6 years after her last match, she watches a young British tennis player steal her world record, and Carrie knows she has to go back and reclaim her rightful place at the top. Even if the world doesn't believe in her, even if it almost breaks her, this is a story about the cost of greatness and the burden of fame. The fight for a place in history is about to begin. That's all you need to hear, so go pick this up. On to our final question now. So this is, which book would you sell your soul to reread for the first time again? So if you haven't seen, I actually had a video where I picked out a couple books that I would sell my soul to experience that world and the characters again for the first time. But if I guess you're asking me to pick one, which I'm annoyed about, so hard. I feel like I'm gonna have to go with Fourth Wing by Rebecca Yarros. I have got the hard books up here, but I don't think you can see them in the frame. But yeah, this was the book that got me into this like book talk universe, and the reason why I have started this booktube channel as well. I'm sure a lot of you have read Fourth Wing because it's extremely popular, and I feel like I don't love it because it's like the best written book that's ever existed. Like, I'll even admit that as a big fan, but I don't know what happened. I just feel like it was like my soulmate in a book. I was meant to read it, and I did read it with one of my good friends, Mia. We experienced that world together for the first time, and what I would give to go back and just talk to that Sophie who was reading that book, falling in love with Zayden Riorson and the world of Bagsiaf, and just be like, hey, you now have over 2,000 YouTube subscribers. But yeah, that is probably why I would pick that book. And that brings us to the end of this little Q&A. I hope you guys have enjoyed getting to know a little bit more about me and my book preferences. But if you are new here, we post weekly bookish content, sometimes some vlogs thrown in there as well. So give this video a like and subscribe to see my face again, and I shall see you all in the next one.